I went to Unreal Fest in Prague and all I got was this shirt. And this swag bag. And some amazing experiences meeting awesome people and having a great time. But let me start from the beginning. First of all, hi, I'm Stefan and I design and build interactive applications in 3D, VR and XR using the Unreal Engine. I'm also an authorized instructor teaching and consulting companies on how real-time 3D can benefit their workflows. Epic Games hosted the Unreal Fest in Prague last week for the first time in years. Last year there was only the Unreal Fest in New Orleans, where developers and creators could come to hear about new developments for the Unreal Engine and UEFN, as well as talk to the people from Epic Games directly and meet others in their industry. The fest was hosted at the Hilton Hotel in Prague over 2 days with talks, sessions and presentations, as well as areas where the Unreal Engine, UEFN, MetaHumans, Reality Capture and others of Epic offerings were presented, and you could talk to the developers. For me, it was the first event of that type and size, so I didn't really know what to expect. It started with a welcome mixer the evening before the main event, where you could get your badge and get to know some of the other attendees. I arrived the afternoon that day to get settled at my hotel after around 5.5 hours of driving to Prague. Since I still had some time before the mixer was supposed to start and I needed to stretch my legs, I walked to the famous Charles Bridge through the city. It was very hot that day and the crowds of tourists didn't really make that experience any better. But it still was nice to see it in person. The opening mixer itself was good, with drinks and snacks and the opportunity to check out the place, connect with a few people and get a sense of the layout of the conference rooms where the sessions were going to be held over the next 2 days. But the official event days was where the stuff was really happening. The first session I attended was about updates coming to the next versions of the Unreal Engine. It's always interesting to see where things are moving towards and get a sense of the strategy Epic Games is developing for their products. The talk touched on every major section of the engine and also gave preliminary release dates for the next Unreal Engine version. All in all, good talk with a lot of interesting information for me as someone who has to have a sense of where things are heading for my work. I'm going to spare you a recap of every talk I attended to not bore you too much, and since some of the talks were simply more enjoyable and informative than others, to be honest. So let's just go through my highlights. BMW is using the Unreal Engine in their driving simulators where they test various aspects of their cars. All of the simulation data is handled by a custom software that is developed in-house called Spider. And this data is then fed over to the Unreal Engine to visualize it on screens of various sizes and configurations. They have parts of real car models in these simulators with machines that allow for different amounts of adjustment, pan, tilt, etc. Their team is rather small. There are only 4 people on the Unreal Engine side, which sounds insane when you think about it. But they seem to make it work and showed off some interesting ways they are currently working, as well as their plans for the future. One presentation I really enjoyed was the one called I Wish I Learned This Sooner by Alex Kulo. Please forgive me if I'm butchering your name. Alex showed some neat tips and tricks to streamline the Unreal Engine development process and take advantage of tools that are already there instead of always needing to develop things from scratch. I mean, the amount of resources that is available for free as part of the Unreal Editor or as sample projects is huge. So if you are just starting out, it might be overwhelming and you might waste time creating solutions to a problem that might not even exist. So I appreciated the talk very much from the perspective of an instructor who had to guide learners through similar issues and show them shortcuts where most people went, wow, I can't believe this exists, or that it can be this easy, since the Unreal Engine has a reputation for being very complex and not beginner friendly. Even though most of the things he talked about were already familiar to me, his presentation style and overall presence on stage was really remarkable and inspiring. It made me think about maybe submitting a presentation for one of the future Unreal Fest events. Even though I know that English not being my native language might be hindering somewhat, I think this could be something to aspire to. Alex told me he hasn't slept much the night before since he noticed that the original version of his presentation would have taken 3 hours instead of 1. So he split it up and called this one Part 1. One of the cool things Alex showed was how to utilize pixel streaming as a way to stream parts of the Unreal editor or even the whole editor to another device with full control. It can be a great workflow improvement, but can also be good for presentation purposes or quick testing. Aaron Langmead from Epic Games gave a great insight into some best practices with Nanite for artists. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Nanite is a technology that virtualizes and streams in geometry on demand in real time, allowing for extremely high level of detail that wasn't possible before. Aaron showed off a few examples on what to look out for and how to best utilize Nanite's advantages and avoiding its pitfalls. All of his presentations that I have seen on YouTube so far have been very informative and packed with helpful tips, and this one was no exception. This evening I attended the Unreal Education Partners Mixer, where authorized training and academic partners were invited to a boat, which was also a restaurant and a brewery. On the way there I saw an interesting part of a wall that I quickly had to 3D scan. The mixer was packed and had food and drinks, a very good homemade raspberry lemonade for me, and I had a great time meeting new people and hanging out with my instructor friends. So thanks for organizing the event to the Unreal Education team, and thanks for the invite, James Butcher. Another talk I really enjoyed was Recreate and Animate Yourself in UEFN by Richard Graham. He showed off the workflow on how to bring in and animate a custom meta-human to be used in your Fortnite experiences, using the Sony Mocopi body tracking system as well as an iPhone for face tracking. This was really interesting to me and opens up a lot of opportunities for custom Fortnite worlds, for music or branding experiences. I had to try it out when I got home, and I found out that I can also transfer the facial animation to Fortnite characters, which gives me even more ideas to maybe do a project with it in the future. Chris Murphy gave a talk that he started with basically saying, all the PCG tutorials on YouTube are shit, here's how you actually use it. I'm paraphrasing. Of course it was jokingly, and he softened the message a bit throughout his presentation. But it was clear that with the experience and knowledge only somebody inside of Epic Games could have, you can utilize the tools to their best potential. His demonstration skills were impeccable, as I was already used to from his numerous other presentations that are on YouTube. Impressive stuff. If you see this, well done Chris, and thanks for being the nice and chill dude when we talked about my other video about using some of your stylization techniques for recreating Riven's new HMI car visualization style. A subject that is important for both UEFN and the Unreal Engine is the newly introduced scene graph. Rodney Yule gave a great introductory talk on what it is and how you're supposed to use it. It will completely change the way we think about and work with objects in our projects. The system will shift from actors, actor classes and components to entities, components and prefabs. Some of them having similar functionality and workflows to before, and some of them offering completely new ways to build up your scene and interact with it logically. Very informative and enlightening talk. Thanks for also answering my questions at the end. I skipped the last presentation slot of the day and just chilled out for a bit. The evening of the last day, Epic Games invited everybody to a big Unreal Fest closing party at a club in Prague called Epic. Apparently there's no relation between the two companies. But the club had a lot of LED screens all showing the Unreal Engine logo or some showreels. At the beginning some light music was playing with the opportunity to get something to eat or drink from various buffets. Unfortunately, the selection of vegetarian and vegan food was rather limited. After a while, a dance show started with dancers in LED costumes showing off a great choreography with various LED weapons. With this, the music volume increased threefold, it felt like, and after a while I had to leave. I'm not much of a partygoer, but it was still an interesting experience. So, was it worth it in the end? I mean, I had to pay for the event ticket, book a hotel and drive basically a whole day to attend Unreal Fest. I would say yes, for me it was totally worth it. Being able to meet and talk to people I mostly only knew online or have seen in some YouTube video in the case of some of the Epic Games stuff was definitely a great experience. Also getting to meet some of the people I have personally trained over the years was awesome. Deepening my existing connections to Epic Games and just being part of this amazing event was definitely one of my highlights this year. A few ideas I had to make it even better would have been an area where agencies, game studios or production houses who are looking for employees or contractors could present themselves. This way people could leave the Unreal Fest not only with new knowledge, but potentially even a job. Also, a business speed dating idea was floated around by some of my friends there, where you could basically meet a lot of new people quickly, learn about what they do and find out if they might be a fit for you business-wise or not in a very efficient way. But maybe this is something for next time. So if you are an Unreal Engine artist or developer, you're creating stuff in UEFN or are working in an industry making use of these tools, the Unreal Fest is a great way to meet and connect with people, learn new things and have some fun. Thank you to Epic Games for organizing it. I look forward to the next one. And to you, thanks for watching. Like, comment, share and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye. And this swag bag.
And you have my bow.
And my axe.